Hello, and welcome to our premiere episode of A Journey in Boots from Trauma to Triumph. Yay, said it right this time.
Good job.
I am super excited. This is my co host, Dr. J,
Hello.
and who is a veteran
Yeah,
herself.
Air
She
Force.
has been on our show several times on our original show, Unstoppable Overcomers. But this is a dream come true tonight because for the last 2 years, I've wanted to put together a veteran show, and here we are. And it's funny because Dr. J said to me, "Oh yeah, I'm doing my own thing. I'm doing all this," and I'm like, "Well, how can I ask her to do it when I know she wants to do her own show?" And then I'm just like, "Oh, screw it. I'm just gonna ask because if you don't ask, then you don't know, right?" And so here we are tonight. So, Dr. J, thank you for making my dream come true. Do you want, for those of you that just tuned in and have no idea who Dr. J is, come on, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Oh, okay. I met Dorothy through a nonprofit veteran organization she was supporting. I was previously on the board of what's called Project Vet Relief, and they support financially. They give disbursements to nonprofit organizations that financially they need a little help. They're starting up, but they focus on suicide prevention initiative. And I met her through another organization, and we have been talking ever since. And I have been on her show a couple times. I'm an Air Force veteran. I was only in for a little while, and then I pursued many different careers. And I worked on my mental health because I got diagnosed with complex post-traumatic stress disorder, was on a bunch of different medication that did not work for me, and I had to find a better way. So I decided to, once I got my doctorate, I didn't really care for the field I was in. I went back to school, got a master's in mental health counseling. Now I'm a licensed mental health counselor in several states. And I created a private practice called Semper Modus LLC. And what it is we serve those who serve. So I find people who have served, whether it's in the community or they have served their country, police officers, firefighters, veterans, who have received their master's in mental health counseling and they're looking at licensure, or they are licensed and they are here to serve others who have served. So that is primarily what my private practice is. But I have been talking about doing a trauma show for quite some time. I am pursuing a second doctorate at Liberty University, and I should be finished hopefully shortly, depending on my lovely professors. But my focus is on trauma, alleviating those post-traumatic stress symptoms. And I have met some amazing people along the way. And our first guest is one of those people.
Well, with that, let's bring up our first guest tonight. 1 second here.
Hi.
Hello, Dr. Constantinides. How are you?
Good.
Constantinides.
Oh, sorry.
I've had practice.
Okay, so we both screwed it up. That's awesome. Our first guest. So tell us, Janelle, you go ahead. I'm going to allow you to start. Since she's your guest, so I'm going to allow you to start.
Yeah, we were immediate friends. I met her through another nonprofit organization, and I got to know her a little bit and where her heartbeat was. I found out she was a Navy corpsman, which she doesn't present herself as a veteran. I don't think a lot of us do initially, but when we find out we're veterans, we just have this symmetry. And, her and I have been buddies ever since. And I found out what she does, and she's an amazing chiropractor, and she's got some innovative medicine. She's been published several times. I connected her to a show on Discovery Channel called Operation Healing Heroes because she just serves all the time. And we want to talk about where you started, how you became a Navy corpsman, how you received your doctorate, talk about your family, all the trials and tribulations you've been through, because you have a pretty phenomenal story.
Okay. Well, that's a lot to start with. I'm located in Virginia Beach, and I run a corporation called Access Medical Center. It's an integrated medical center in which we provide regenerative medicine. We're very cutting edge. I'm the applied kinesiologist there, and medicine includes stem cells, and I am seeing more and more miracles happen with the stem cells. So I'm just thrilled about it, because where people have lost hope or faith in the medical system, they have no hope, they have no faith any longer. They walk through my doors and we restore their hope more than anything. And little by little, they begin to get better. And it's such a joy to see, and a wonderful to be just a very small part of their journey.
What is kinesiology?
Kinesiology is the study and function of the musculature. And the way that I apply it is I use it to help me understand what's really going on with the body. So I use it as a diagnostic tool and to figure out what's really going on with somebody. And that's stuff that advanced imaging has missed, advanced testing has missed. You know, the best doctors at Duke, Johns Hopkins, the Mayo Clinic, the Cleveland Clinic, they've missed. And I get the patients who don't even get help from them, and then they come to me.
So let's talk about your start. What made you choose to go into the Navy of all things? Because we all know you're brilliant, and you are a doctor of chiropractic.
Chiropractic is my doctorate.
It's chiropractic medicine. Is that what it's called?
Yeah.
Okay. So you decided to be a Navy corpsman. Is that straight out of high school? Like, how did that work?
I was actually working with preschoolers. So I was teaching 3-year-olds. And
of course you were.
I mean, they're just so cute.
That's true.
So I was teaching 3-year-olds, and I felt a pull and a call towards medicine. And the fastest way I knew how to figure out if medicine was for me or not was to join the military. And there's a lot of Army veterans, U.S. Army veterans in my family. And I figured, well, I'll go join the Army, or at least go talk to them. And when I showed up at the recruiting station, the Army people, they were closed. The Navy people were open. And I said, hey, I'd like to take that test that you guys have. And he was locking up his office, and he said, okay, let's go downtown and do that. So I went down, I took the ASVAB, and I told him the only thing I wanted to do was corpsman or medic. And that was it. And if he couldn't guarantee that for me, then I would not sign. And magically, they found an opening.
Look at that.
Yeah, it's amazing.
So how was that experience for you?
It was overall, I would say it was good and formative, truly formative. It helped me hone in on what I wanted to do and where I wanted to be. And I ended up in the emergency room. I begged, pleaded to get into the emergency room, got into the emergency room, ended up teaching EMT school. So I ran an ambulance as well. And then I taught EMT school, all the while still working in the emergency room. And that was just a phenomenal experience. And I have such knowledge under my belt that I think even a lot of physicians don't ever gather in their entire career. And so it gave me a practical foundation of not only basic life-saving techniques, but because it's military and military medicine, you have to be creative. So it allowed me to bridge that gap between my right brain and my left brain. So with the creativity comes the practicality. And that's where I think the genius lies, as Janelle had said, that I'm able to bridge those two things and come up with the best course of treatment for the patients under my care.
Well, she's one of the leading diagnosticians as well, Dorothy. She catches things that the VA doesn't catch. She'll recommend an MRI for people, and then all of a sudden they get benefits that they would not normally get because there are so many things that are missed in those scans.
Yes.
So tell us about the bridge between being a corpsman, getting out of the military. How was transition for you? What did you do after that?
A transition was fairly easy. I knew exactly my plan was to go to pre-med at university. I got into the University of Colorado, where I did my pre-med there. And it was partway through there that actually I was getting ready to write the MCATs to go off to medical school because I was planning on going back into the emergency room. Mm-hmm. It was in that moment where I realized, I'm a different person out of the emergency room than I was in the emergency room. The brick wall had kind of fallen, the compassion had returned, the empathy had returned for people, rather than just looking at them as a job.
Mhm.
And I found what I wanted to do was keep people well, as opposed to, try to take care of them when they're on death's doorstep. So I talked to my counselor and he suggested chiropractic. And the philosophy was more in alignment with my spirit and my soul and my heart. And that's what I gravitated to. I didn't know it was going to be such a tough uphill climb. I just figured it was going to be exactly the same as coming out of medical school, getting a job and going to work, that kind of thing, and doing what I was passionate about. But it was a little bit more work than that.
So what was the uphill climb?
Chiropractors aren't received well in the medical community in any way, shape, or form. Typically, they have a really bad reputation, and that precedes my life. Honestly, it comes from a long time ago. There's history between the American Medical Association and the American Chiropractic Association. The doctors of osteopathy have ended up joining the American Medical Association. So they're looked at as a peer. A DO and an MD are peers now, both in the hospital. And doctors of chiropractic, DCs, were asked to join the AMA, the American Medical Association. But the fellow who was in charge of chiropractic at the time said no. And let me show you where you can shove it. Pretty much, long story short.
Oh boy.
So there was some bad blood and some propaganda across the United States about how chiropractors kill people. And they just took a downturn and slowly were climbing out, where the AMA is actually slowly absorbing chiropractic, because they realized, even though they were training physical therapists to do chiropractic work, they just can't replicate the same benefits that chiropractic has, if that makes sense.
It does.
That's funny because that's not the first time I've heard that.
It's very true.
And I have a friend who's a holistic chiropractor out of Illinois, and she's just like, she does more for me than my MD does, but then she doesn't get the recognition of that either,
Right.
which totally, doesn't make sense to me, but,
Yeah.
that's.
And we have the exact same education, exactly the same. I actually think chiropractors have more physiology and anatomy than medical students from Harvard.
Well, I think you do. I don't know about everybody.
I think it's the standard.
Because I've met some chiropractors and you are not built of the same cloth. I don't know if you just continue to educate yourself and you keep yourself grounded, but you're very much above and beyond.
Well, I think that's really where my advanced degree, applied kinesiology, comes in, because you have to understand, like the back of your hand, the biochemistry and the physiology of all the different processes in the body and how they actually work in unification rather than separate bits. So we could send you, if you have a shoulder problem, I could send you to an orthopedist to look at your shoulder. But what often gets missed if you see the shoulder specialist is that it's connected to your neck. It's connected to your mid back, your low back, in your knee and your head, your ear. So there's a lot of other bits and pieces that go into it that gets missed in traditional Western medicine. So in that regard, we look at it more in the Chinese holistic way, which works better for the body in general. When you're addressing all of those points, it makes the person get better so much faster. It's really remarkable to see, and I get to be at the forefront of it.
I can see why you wanted Dr. Marion on the show for sure, because I mean, just listening to you, I'm just like, wow, like it's just there it is, right?
And she keeps pursuing more innovative work. So she does certain things, and then like she works, like she has kits for like your adrenal glands.
Mhm.
Like, how awesome is that? And there's a regiment to it so that, like, it just constantly improves your function, which I don't think people, I mean, you go see them, they adjust you. And that's what people think chiropractic medicine is all about. It's like you go in, you crack my back, and I'm on my way. It's like, well, that's not all she does. So that's one of the reasons I wanted you on the show as well. But I also know that you have been through a lot with your own body. And I didn't know what you were willing to share, what you're not. And I just kind of wanted to give you free reign to share or not share. It's up to you. But
Okay.
you have endured a lot to the point where there's no way you could not have done your job if you didn't have the education you have about the body. Is she frozen?
Yeah.
Oh, no.
She'll come back.
Okay. Just
But
takes a minute to adjust.
it takes a minute, yeah. But yeah, totally
At least
amazing.
it's a good look. For me, I get frozen, my tongue's hanging out or something.
As you're listening in and tuning in, just let us know where you're listening in from in the comments. We would appreciate that. Whether you're listening in on our Facebook, YouTube, or LinkedIn. If you have any questions for Dr. Marion when she comes unfrozen, let it go. Let it go.
It happens. But I
Yeah.
know that the stem cell stuff is pretty exceptional too, that she does. And like she's the applied kinesiology. I didn't really understand what that was. And she's trying to explain it to me. And, I have a PhD, but I was still deer in the headlights when it comes to the specific medicinal like focuses they have. It's just exceptional.
Right.
And it's like a deep dive every time we have a conversation.
Oh,
So-
yeah. So fun.
We were talking about you while you were frozen.
Sorry. Our internet is going in and out here in southeastern Virginia. I don't know what the weather's doing,
Huh.
but I don't
Well,
know.
That's
like
okay.
I said,
We'll just
whatever
roll with
you're
it.
willing to share, because you have, like I said, you have been through a lot.
Sure,
So,
I would love to share. In the military, I've always been a very active person. I played softball in the military, so that was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed that. And just always active, always pursuing kind of the next adrenaline point, whether it was running, rappelling, CrossFit, kayaking, mountain biking, whatever, extreme downhill skiing, just crazy, crazy stuff. And I was always looking for the next hit. And that was a lot of fun. And I ended up marrying a man who is more of a homebody. And so that really helps ground me. But it also,
I'm laughing because I can identify. Trust me, I'm the outgoing, and he's just like, I just want to be home.
yeah, like 4 days away from home is enough for him. And I'm like, no, let's go to the next thing. Let's do the next. And it's a bit maddening at times for him and me both. I want him to be a little bit more like me, and he wants me to be a little bit more on the sofa next to him. And he got his wish. And he did. He got his wish. In October of 2015, I became totally paralyzed. I was pregnant with my son, and there were complications, not because of him, but because I had contracted something called Guillain-Barré syndrome. In the
what
States,
is that?
oh, yeah. So in the States, they call it Guillain-Barré. And you may have heard of it with the Zika virus. What happens is your whole nervous system begins to shut down. It's an autoimmune disorder where your body attacks the electricity in your body, so the nervous system. So just like you have wires in your house, it would be like the rats in the attic chomping on the wires until all of the house powers down. And it doesn't matter if you use a generator. It doesn't matter how many times you flip the switch. It doesn't matter if you try to turn it on from the street. Your house, the power just doesn't come back on. So my nerves have been demyelinated, where the fatty sheaths that allow the nerve impulses to jump. They jump on these fatty sheaths all the way through, and that's how they make the body move. That was completely degraded, and it was exceptionally painful. My son was induced. He was induced. I delivered him naturally. They didn't think I would survive a C-section. He was early, and by the fourth day, the fourth day after his delivery, so he was 4 days old, I was totally paralyzed, and it was starting to hit my diaphragm. I couldn't speak. And I really thought that was absolutely my last day on earth, completely.
Wow.
And it was like I felt the Grim Reaper coming down the hallway and ready to take me with him. And I felt so bad that I had to tell my husband this was it. He came in for the visit that day, and I didn't want to tell him. I didn't want him to be warned, but I don't really hold my cards very close to my chest. And I shared with him, and I said, Matt, I got to tell you, this is my last day on earth. And he got angry with me, which surprised me. And he said, no, it is not. And you're wrong. And you need to do everything you can to fight, because your newborn needs you, and our 2 little girls need you, and I need you. And I said to him, okay. And he had, in that brief moment, he had given me enough resolution for me to take that resolve inward. And this is the type of person I am. Just take that resolve inward and turn it into my power.
Mm-hmm.
And that is, I just said, okay. I shut my eyes and I slept, and I decided in that moment that I'm not going to succumb to this. And I started getting gross motor in my arms back, so I could kind of grossly pick things up, or I could hold on to the bed rail to help the nurses change me. And I still had no movement in my legs at all. And every night, now this is sports psychology that I used, every single night I would envision myself hiking through the aspen trees outside of Vail, Colorado. And it was a hike that I loved. I did it all through college. And every night I would envision myself doing that, because I know that what the brain sees, the body knows.
Mm-hmm.
So it didn't really matter if I was actually doing it or not. I was still sending those chemical impulses to my body. Michael Jordan and who's the latest awesome free thrower, they would envision themselves tossing free throws all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And so they practiced roughly 14 to 16 hours a day. Even if you look at them and they're sitting, they're actually in their mind, more than likely, doing their free throws. They're seeing themselves on the line. I saw myself walking. And then as I could, I would pull on my leg on the scrub pant that they had on me, and I would lift it up, and it would just slap back down, and I would lift it up, and it would slap back down. So I was making my body walk, and I begged and pleaded. I'm very persuasive, I begged
Yes.
and I pleaded for physical therapy to come and start visiting me twice a day just to move my body. And they didn't want to let them, because that's medicine. That's where we are with medicine. And finally they agreed, because I was relentless with them. And before you knew it, I was walking with a walker to the nurse's station within a couple of days, actually. But I was still needing a lot of help. I was still a full assist patient. So meaning I needed help rolling over in bed and changing. And I wouldn't eat anything. I just wasn't hungry. And truth be told, I couldn't swallow, but I wasn't going to tell them that. I just like, okay, isn't this enough?
Right.
And so Friday I was getting ready to be transferred to a rehabilitative care unit. and they denied my access because I was still full assist. By Monday, I was walking enough where when I got transferred, the hospitalist doctor there said, "You are a miracle. 2 days ago, I read about you, and you are not the person that I read about." And by that time, I was in a wheelchair, and I could sort of pedal my legs a little bit to get myself around. But I was ashamed of who I was in my body because I was no longer that adrenaline junkie, the runner, the helper, the climber, the repeller. I was no longer any of those things. And that was the fight of my absolute life.
Wow. That just goes to show that, like you said, if you can visualize it, you can definitely achieve it. You are
Yeah.
the epitome of that. The next time I think that I can't do something, I'm going to remember this story. And visualization, I've been doing visualization exercises for 3 years, and I'm just like,
I mean, how much will does a person, like, how much will does she have
right.
in order to enable herself to go from being absolutely completely paralyzed to
Yeah.
walking in a week?
Yeah. It was about 3 days, I think. So Friday, I was still completely paralyzed. Saturday, Sunday, and then by Monday. So a weekend. Yeah.
So what did they do with your diagnosis? Because you're like, I'm not settling for this. How did they navigate that?
Well, I mean, it's still Guillain-Barré. It still was. And it just took time, a lot of time after that to really remyelinate the nerves. And they're still not 100%. This was 8.5 years ago. And I'll never be 100% of where I was.
Yeah, but now we're going to break a hip. So, like, it's not like you need to.
Dr. J.
I'm just saying, we're not 20.
So I had to ask, because what was your husband's reaction then from seeing you, the adrenaline junkie to now you're down and out? He's telling you, no, you're not, this isn't your last day, to, okay, you're moving around. And I get he wants to sit beside you on the couch every night, but is he now, doing things with you, like walking and going out and doing things with you now?
He is. Yeah.
I love that. I love that.
Oh, we walked along Virginia Beach and I couldn't keep up with her. So, I mean, I'm lazy. So it's not, that's not saying a lot, but still.
He was really scared. Honestly, it took him a while for him to not be fearful because he didn't want me to go back into the hospital. And that was sort of in the back of his mind that I could potentially, like, this could come back and my body could attack itself again. And that's a real possibility, but I can't let that hold me back from living life. I've got this great second chance. I'm able to do it again. And by looking at me, you would never, ever know that had happened. The other thing that happened in the military is I suffered from 3 TBIs.
Wow.
And pretty much all I have a hard time word finding now. And if I see a friend I haven't seen for a while, I have a hard time remembering their names. So I go through kind of my little internal Rolodex that tells you how old I am, my little Rolodex, until I can come up with their name. And sometimes it takes me a couple of days, but it's very embarrassing to say, what was your name again?
She's very good at, hey, how are you?
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's all good.
Well, if it makes you any better, I've never had a TBI, and I can remember your face to the day I die, but I will not remember the name. And that's just who I am.
Yeah.
No shame in it at all. No. I've got no problem saying, hey, what was your name again?
So the other cool thing, I mean, you do a lot of cool things, but one of the cool things you do that I've never seen as a clinician was EFT.
Oh, no, the NET.
See?
Yeah.
I mess that up every time I talk to you.
Okay.
I think I just like to be corrected by Dr. C. I don't know what it is, but
because I'm nice about it. Yeah. So the neuro-emotional technique, as we know, your emotions will store physiologically in your body. And there's usually a pattern to it. And everybody is roughly has the same pattern. And that's based on Chinese medicine. So different meridians, different organs hold or have value in different emotions. The liver is anger, the gallbladder is resentment, and it moves forward from there. The pancreas, the spleen has to do with low self-esteem. And so what I can do is I can use applied kinesiology to determine where somebody may be holding emotional distress. And then using their subconscious, because with applied kinesiology, all you're doing is you're asking the body. The body knows the answer.
Mhm.
All I'm doing is asking the body for it to tell me where I need to look and what I need to do. And so I can use muscle testing through applied kinesiology, have the patient therapy localize these certain organs to check their emotions. And I can actually tell if the person needs emotional help or like a desensitization, which is the neuroemotional technique. And that, as Dr. Royster does as well, that opens up the amygdala, stops the storage of the emotion from storing in that body, and basically cuts the physiological bond between the emotion and that organ. And then the person remarkably gets better. And that's really great when it comes to people with PTSD. So people with childhood trauma and they haven't moved forward, people with military trauma, people with sexual trauma, the list goes on, and it's really, truly remarkable. So not only can I tell if an organ needs emotional help, I can tell if it needs nutritional help, and I can also tell if it just needs structural assistance. And so through those little things with certain modes, it's easy to determine what the body needs. And in fact, that technique was featured on the old TV show Grey's Anatomy.
Oh, wow. Yeah, it was. I remember that. I remember seeing that episode, and I'm like, oh, there it is.
Yep.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome.
Yeah. And it was done by a psychologist who was treating one of the characters for military PTSD.
So much good stuff. So much good stuff. I'm still at the, my gosh, this woman was paralyzed, and 3 days later she's like movement. I'm still in that, like, how did that happen type thing. But just like you said, the power of the mind is incredible if you allow yourself to believe it.
That's right. And the power of prayer. So that's also really key. And what the power of prayer is, getting everybody else's thoughts in wavelength together. And prayer is the number one alternative medicine in the world. And one thing we know to be true is that thoughts form waves. And those waves, just like our sound waves that come out of our mouth, they go into the universe forever. Mm-hmm. So if we can sync those thought patterns through prayer or well wishes, good thoughts, sending those vibes out into the universe, that actually has had measurable improvement through studying.
Yeah, a lot of people use the term manifesting. They manifest goodness. They manifest, they speak it out into the universe, and then it happens. And what's funny is, like, if you will it, it shall be. So people are genuinely shocked when it actually happens. It's like, well, you worked hard on this.
Yeah.
I'm actually really glad that you brought up the power of prayer. As somebody who has actually seen miracles be performed right in front of her. I had a father that was on death's doors and was getting, he went into renal failure from a cold. Just a regular cold, went into renal failure. Long story there. And his creatinine levels were extremely the opposite of what they should be. I can't remember if it was high or low. Whatever that's supposed to be, it was like ridiculous. Ended up going on dialysis, and within 3 months was off dialysis without a kidney transplant or anything like that. The doctors here in Windsor, Ontario, Dr. Cadre's team, still to this day have no idea. And I said, it's the power of prayer. I said, I loved your team. You know, I had people praying around the world for my father. And I said, you know, I thank you so much for saving him. And I hope I never have to see you again. and he's just like, I understand. But I'm glad you did bring that up, because that prayer is powerful.
Yes.
And I'm totally a believer in that myself, and have seen transformation after transformation with that.
I love that. I love hearing that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I would be truly remiss in saying it was just me and my knowledge in the room. I think some of it is divine when I work on a patient.
So when you decided to venture into applied kinesiology, and chiropractic medicine, and then you transitioned into, you know, private practice, basically. I met you in the teeny tiny office in the front off of Bonnie Road, right? And
Yeah.
then you're like, we're moving into a bigger office. And that was what, 2 years ago, 3 years
2
ago?
years. Uh-huh.
Okay. So you moved into the bigger office. And then of course, you know, I've been visiting you weekly to hang out with my clients, but I was blessed, and, you know, she said, here, have a room on Fridays. And I'm like, yes. So how did you transition from applied kinesiology and chiropractic medicine to like the stem cells and the things you're doing now that are really like, and now you're doing a whole person wellness program where you're bringing in different practitioners. So
That's
can you
right.
tell us more about that?
So we're an integrated holistic office. So we're able to offer the things that really help people. And I'm truly tired of people not getting any help or having any hope from other practitioners. And if there's one place on earth that becomes a point of respite for them, let me be that light. Let me be that clinic where people can go when they need something, and they need something outside of the box. They don't want the medications. They don't want the surgery. That's what I'm about. That's truly what I'm about. It's absolutely in alignment with my passions and shaking up standardized medicine. We focus on the nutrition of the body. We focus on the wellness of the body and the structure of the body, of course. That becomes, the chiropractic then becomes about 1/5 of what we do. And a lot of it is nutrition. When people have debilitating disorders and they are having a hard time getting better, I find that we can move that process along better with simple trigger point injections. And we use a natural botanical for trigger point injections called Serapin. And it is what the Native Americans would use as their anesthetic. It comes from the pitcher plant. It's actually been FDA approved in the United States since like 1905 or so. I might be a bit off on the date, but it's one of the most natural things that you can do to help soothe and relax the muscle tissue. And it's amazing. And then we added in the stem cells on top of that, because I've seen more miracles with stem cells than anything else on earth. And again, it's completely natural. It's not embryonic. It's not from a baby. It's what was historically medical waste. And it is from the umbilical cord between a mother and a child. And the mother is completely vetted beforehand, before they harvest the umbilical cord. And then those cells, one milliliter or 1 cc, can have up to 2 billion undifferentiated cells. And that works as a mesenchymal stem cell in the body. You can put it anywhere you want, and it signals to your own body to heal a particular area. So if you're slated for a total knee replacement or a total joint replacement, you can put this in lieu of that. And over the course of time, you start to repad the meniscus, repad the cartilage, and you heal as if you were new again. the latest thing I've seen, and this happened this week, we had a patient come in who had the stem cells inserted into his spinal fluid, and his spinal cord regenerated. Yep.
What?
Yes.
Wow.
So that gives a whole nother door to open. And I think it's one of those things that we're going to be getting more and more all the time. And there just will no longer be osteoarthritis. There will no longer be traumatic arthritis. There will no longer be degenerative joint disease or a person with a bad back, lumbago, anything like that. This is really quite miraculous.
Okay, I have to ask, what do you do with hormones and that, especially for women going through menopause?
So with hormones, there's a lot of nutrition and then a lot of supplemental support. And a lot of times I'm seeing in North America in particular, horrible insulin resistance, where our bodies just aren't utilizing the sugars that are there and not breaking it down. And the cells are rejecting the insulin from inserting. So then getting a piece of something to help transport it, like hold its hand and pull it through to the cell, is really helpful. And
Wow.
what happens with insulin resistance is women, especially who are in that mid or postmenopausal range, they just gain weight no matter what they do. If they intermittent fast, they gain weight. If they do the keto, they gain weight. If they paleo, they gain weight. It does not matter. It just seems like no matter what they do is they gain weight, because there's something in that hormonal component that's not holding the hand of insulin and pulling it through. And insulin, remember, is a hormone.
Yeah, I'm there. I'm pretty sure that's where I'm at.
Same. That and cheeseburgers, but still.
Cheeseburgers are delicious.
Oh, I know. You and I have had many. I love me some cheeseburgers. However, in moderation. But even so, even if you do change your diet and you increase your steps and you're doing all the things, you're right. It doesn't matter what you do.
Yeah.
That scale does not move.
That's right. And sometimes it even goes up, and that becomes frustrating.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You? I'm there. Like, trust me. I've even done some strength training with a veteran, and he has this app that he has, and so I've been doing that, and I'm like, I'm not seeing any results here, so I'm just about ready to.
Yeah,
like,
hormones
I don't
for
know.
us, I don't know why, but it's almost like we get to that age and it says, oh, body says, okay, we're going to start you through the change and we're going to lose our mind.
Yeah.
So can you help us understand that? Because a lot of people don't understand. I mean, we have celebrities like Drew Barrymore who are coming out and it's like, I'm not ashamed of my perimenopause. And it's like, well, that's great, but what is it?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So after Guillain-Barré, my body changed immediately. And I didn't lose the baby weight, but then I started gaining weight. And granted, I wasn't very concerned about the weight gain, because I was more concerned about walking and being able just to function on the day to day. And I figured that the weight loss would come eventually. And it had with my other two children post baby. This time I just couldn't get a handle on it. And please understand that during my pregnancy with my son, I was still doing CrossFit up until I just couldn't move anymore. And so I was, the healthiest I'd been, the healthiest of any of my pregnancies. And so to see my body change so dramatically, I sort of chalked it up to, oh, I've just been through this major illness, this devastating illness. And so it must be that. And then I couldn't shake it, and I couldn't work out, and I couldn't eat right, and I just couldn't do anything. And I even tried intermittent fasting, and that didn't work. And I started gaining weight, and I thought, well, maybe I'm not doing it right. So let me read the book again, and let me talk to people and get the experts on my side, and let me talk to longevity experts. And So I reached out to people and just trying to garner as much information as I could. And I learned a lot through my own desire for myself. You know, it was very selfishly driven. And I still made no headway until I discovered, and this was last summer, that peptides that help hold the hand of insulin and pull it through the cell. It's like walking a child across the street. You hold their hand. Then I started losing weight. And last summer, I started off around 206 pounds and I'm down to about 170. And it's been a slow go, but it's been exactly what I've needed. And in that process, depending on where you're from, I have discovered that my cycle normalized and my cycle came back. And that was a surprise. It's not what I was expecting.
She's really tall too. So 170, she looks teeny. I'm just saying.
I'm 5'6". 5'6".
Yeah. But 170 for like a mature woman looks like a 130 on a 20-year-old. I don't know why, but it does.
Sometimes.
But your kids are amazing. They're very healthy. You know, they're thriving. So I kind of want you to talk a little bit about how awesome they're doing.
I'm
very proud of them. I'm just saying.
They're good kids. So children's health in general is what you want to hear? Or my kids specifically?
Your kids specifically, like after you had endured that, you know, he's fine. The girls are great.
Yeah.
Very talented.
They are amazing children. And my oldest was in kindergarten at the time I was sick. And I think it affected her the most, where she's very sensitive. She likes to absorb a lot of, she has that knowing. And I tell her it's her infinite baby wisdom. She can sense what's going on with my husband and he's miles away. And so she just sort of has that infinite baby wisdom. So for her, it's been harder. And for her, therapy was in order, certainly, to help her navigate almost losing her mom. And then a couple of years later, my husband was in a terrible car crash, had a TBI. His personality changed. And then getting her to navigate that. And that happened, I think, when she was in second grade. So it was about 2 years later or 4 years later. Let's see, that was 2019. So 2015 to 2019. And it was right after I came out of, I said to my husband that Christmas, I said, okay, 2018 of Christmas. All right, I'm over it. This is as good. We're going to go back to our life. And then about a week later, he was struck by a tractor trailer.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And lived to tell about it. But it was a tough go because he wasn't right in the head. And that was a TBI at the very beginning. And so we navigated that. He's much better. He still has a little personality switch, but he's okay.
He's no Phineas Gage. It's fine.
No.
He's a good dude.
Yeah, he is.
But, her oldest is exceptionally musically inclined.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he plays guitar. So, you know, a lot of that came back after all of this trauma.
Yeah.
You know, so them to be a successful, wholesome family is pretty, I'm just in awe of her success personally and professionally. And that's kind of what I wanted to highlight on the show is just, she's an amazing human being. And she is always like, well, yeah, you can say this is crap, but it's also, you know, away from your body and it's not filling you with toxin. Like she can find the bright side of crap. I don't know how she does it, but it's just after all that she's endured, it would be so easy for her to go, life sucks. You know, she's like, no, there's joy over there. You know, so for her to be so grateful and just find the joy in absolutely everything. And even in challenging times, she's like, but the positive is, and I'm like, how do you do that? I mean, I do that. Okay. She does that amazingly well.
Well, you know? It's like exercising any muscle. If you want your muscle to grow, you have to exercise that positivity. Yeah. I mean, life can suck and it's another brain piece. If you're looking for the crummy, you'll find the crummy. If you're looking for the good, you'll find the good. It's the reticular activating system, which you guys know about, right?
Yeah.
So if I buy a brand new blue Subaru today, I will see 20 on the streets tomorrow, but I've never seen them before in my life. So it's just because you become aware, you become attuned to that thing. If you're attuned to the crummy and the garbage of life, and there's plenty, then you carry that garbage with you. If you're attuned to the joy and the sunshine, then you get to relish in the joy and the sunshine. So it's a choice.
Yeah, absolutely a choice. Do we have any questions? Anybody commented?
And no, not so far.
Wow.
I know. I'm shocked.
They
I'm
seem to be
shocked.
following. Well, plus I'm asking her to break down all these brain words.
Right.
Because, what is kinesiology? Like, most people know it's movement, but what does that mean?
Yeah.
And I think her applied kinesiology with the chiropractor, with, the multitude of research and education and certifications she's received, it gives her this very unique perspective. I love the holistic part because, I've told you guys that I was on 12 different medications. I was seeing, birds and stuff being on Prozac because it wasn't the right medication. But I'm hoping that someday we get to the point where we can take a blood draw and say, okay, you have, hypothetically, someone has bipolar disorder and they need this medication, and that'll settle them rather than just to throw pills at people.
Right.
And there are people that really, really need it. I have a lot of clients who definitely need their anxiety medication, a lot of clients who definitely need their schizophrenic medication to keep that voice calm and quiet so that they can focus on their daily living skills. But, focusing on the body and keep staying in tune with that is just an absolutely beautiful thing. And I'm just in awe of what she does because it's so different from what I do, but yet the same. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Because we're here to heal.
Right.
Yeah.
I love that. I love what you said. And it's funny because I grew up where everything was the Western medicine, right? That you did exactly what your doctor told you to. As a matter of fact, I'm pretty sure that's why my dad is no longer here, because when he connected with cancer, it was exactly went to this point what his oncologist told him to do. I would have went for a more holistic approach, but that's me, and that's not where we're at. And it's funny because over the last 2 years, I have gone from 100% Western to, I would say, 80% holistic. And so finding the differences in that, and it's made a difference, I believe. Like, my husband gets pneumonia every January. I have not, let me knock on some wood here. I have not been sick in years. The pandemic hit, I've never gotten even a sniffle. And so, just taking care of, however, I'm pretty sure I'm in premenopause or perimenopause or whatever you want to do, which is completely fucking up my body. But other than that, everything else, like, I'm the only one that's been healthy, and I'm overweight. I'm the only one that's overweight in this immediate household, but I'm the healthiest. So
yeah, it's interesting how that works. And, to have a medication where you complain of the side effects, so they give you a medication to handle the side effects, which then gives you more side effects, and I remember looking at those 12 prescription bottles and I just shoved them off the counter into the garbage. And I'm like, I'll deal with the withdrawal. And I did. And, I work very hard on like vitamin supplements and things like that, because I think we really need to hone in and find out exactly what's going on before you get that medicine. And I'm not disputing it. People need meds all the time.
There's a time and a place.
Yes.
And it's nice to know that you're at the right time and the right place, as opposed to that being the first go-to.
And I know people, who I treat for therapy who have this anxiety where they just can't shut their brain off. Mm-hmm. Those highways, those neural pathways of the brain are going 150 miles an hour in every direction. And, it's like, okay, well, we'll do all these holistic things. However, you may still need medication to slow that traffic down, you know, because I agree it's very valid. I think, you know, if you have an infection, you need an antibiotic. I'm not disputing Western medicine at all. I'm telling you that it's not for me.
Yep. For me, it's a time and a place. And that's why I brought in medical practitioners who are more holistically minded. And that's where the integration piece had come in. And together, we're just building a very beautiful practice in Virginia Beach. And we have people who come from all over the United States, all over the world. We have people who live out of the country who come to see us. And because they're getting a type of care that they don't get other places.
Yeah, I met 3 physicians who were like, you need surgery on your back. And, you know, Dr. C's like, no, you don't. She's like, no, you don't, because I don't want to be cut into. I think that's very hard for me to recover from each and every time. You know, I have a metal sensitivity. So somebody cutting me with a knife is really going to impact me. It's going to take me 3 times as long to recover. So why would I do that to myself?
Yeah.
You know, and those are the type of approaches she has. And I've seen her with her patients. And like I said, she just did a television show. So tell us about that. That was pretty cool.
That was amazing. So Dr. Royster had put me in touch with Jay Garstecki of Operation Healing Heroes and the Operation Healing Heroes Foundation. The Operation Healing Heroes show airs on the Discovery Channel. Jay and his team were in Virginia Beach, and they observed me with one of my patients. He's a veteran, former EOD, and he had a TBI while in Iraq. And this can be looked up on YouTube, and you can watch the episode.
Mm-hmm.
And he had a post-concussive syndrome that didn't show up for about a year or so later, post-concussion. And when he got to a new duty station, that is really when it began to show. And the military kicked him out because they didn't understand what was going on. They thought perhaps he's malingering. He's just not doing his job anymore. He had gotten a promotion. They just like, this guy can't cut it. He's out. And for the military to do that, you must be performing exceptionally poorly. And it turns out it was all because of the TBI. And this is really before the military knew what to do with the TBI. They just figured he was fine, and they put him right back to work. They sent him back to Iraq, and he should be fine. And he couldn't do it. It was too much stress on his body. His body hadn't healed. His brain hadn't healed. And when he first came to me, he had a really hard time just functioning day to day. He had 2 little boys and just had a very hard time functioning. And little by little, he began to get better. And he could articulate more. And his sense of humor came back. And his personality began to shift into what he used to be. And he is the kindest, most gentlest person that you could ever know. But having met him a few years ago, in that moment, you would have never guessed. You just thought he was really rough around the edges. And so that all comes out in the episode, and it's nicely done. The great thing about this particular patient is he is one of many people. He's a sampling of the work that I do and the population that I can help. And I just want more people to know that there are practitioners like me out there. And if they can't find them, they're welcome to call me, and I'll help point them in the right direction.
So I do have your website. Is that the best place to get a hold of you?
Let me see. Yes, that's great.
All right. Is there anywhere else you'd like them to connect with you, or just go to your website?
The website's great. They can call the office directly. They can also, from the website, the office phone number is on there, and then my email is on there, info@myaxis.org, and it's Axis, AXIS, because we are shifting healthcare.
Yes.
I love that. And as you were speaking, I I have a family that her son was paralyzed. He had the his spine was severed, and
Yeah.
he's been in a wheelchair for years. And I'm like, okay, I need to connect him with you guys because I mean he was originally from Canada, but I believe him and his wife live in Arizona. But I'm saying still, I'm going to connect you guys after.
Please do.
Um, and I'm also going to connect you with another, like my holistic doctor that's out of Illinois, because maybe there's some, she loves this kind of stuff. And I had not really understood that this was what it would be, or else I would have just like, hey, watch Dr. Christy. But I'm definitely going to make sure she watches this episode and connect you two afterwards as well.
Great. I would love to hear from them and talk to them. Thank
So,
you.
lastly, Dr. Constantinides, because I
Yes.
did learn how to say your name properly.
Yes.
What are your giveaways? What advice do you have to people who have served and like endured, and you manifested your future, like as a whole, reflecting on your life? Like, what words of wisdom do you have for the audience?
Well, first, I want to say to all of our veterans, I'm so glad that you're back home. And even though it's hard, I'm really glad that you made it back. So thank you for coming home. And the biggest words of wisdom that I have are to please don't stop, don't give up. So when it seems really hard and the odds are against you, just reach out to somebody. There are people like me all around, and Dr. Royster. And if you don't know where to go, just call me and I'll lend a hand in any way, shape, or form that I can, or put you in touch with somebody who can.
Well, I just want to say I think you're amazing. And, I love that even though you served, you continue to serve.
Mm-hmm.
I know there's a lot of veterans out there that don't have that capability or that mindset. And for you to be as exceptionally brilliant as you are and innovative, I just want to say thank you for all that you do for us every single day. And as a friend, of course, I love you to pieces. So, Dorothy, I'm going to hand it back to you, hon.
Oh, wow. I just want to give a shout out here to Jared Bonville. He said holistic care / medicine is the best. Thank you for what you do. So
Thanks,
I
Jared.
believe, if I'm not mistaken, I think Jared is a veteran as well.
He
I
is.
could be-
He's in Kentucky. He's a good
Okay.
dude. Yeah, he actually should probably come visit. He could benefit from your services as well.
There
Okay.
we go. I couldn't remember where I seen him, but yes.
Well, he's friends with Greg. So,
Got it.
and he was out at the ranch, so that's how I know him.
Awesome.
Hi, Jared.
He says howdy.
Yeah, he's got a pretty amazing service dog. She's pretty exceptional. I love her to pieces. So very
I
cool.
love that. I just want to thank our guests for being here tonight, and for those of you that are going to watch it on the replay and watch it on our Roku channel, we really appreciate you. And Dr. Marion, thank you so much for coming on the show tonight. This has been an incredible experience.
Such short notice. We gave her like 3 days.
But she's our premier.
Thursday. Thank you.
She's our premier. And, and I love that. And, if you are a female veteran, we are wanting to shine the spotlight on you, especially within this show. I've done a lot with our military families, a lot with our veterans, first responders, and I have been made known that the female veteran community needs some love. So we plan on spotlighting the women out there that really deserve the spotlight. And I just want to thank you so much, Dr. Marion, for being our first one. I've learned a lot. I'm in awe of your story. I'm in awe of, here you are, completely paralyzed to where you're at today, and so blessed to know you. Now that you're part of our family, Like you're part of Dr. Janelle's family, but now you're part of mine.
Woo!
And it's wild and crazy. And I just want to thank you so much for being here. And if there's anything we can do to help you, let us know. And like we said, connect with Dr. Marion here on her website, www.myaxis.org, and check her out. And we thank you so much. And same time, same channel next week, guys. Tune in. It will be a surprise who will be on.
Yes,
but
ma'am.
I know they will be amazing. So stay tuned and go check out our YouTube channel, Unstoppable Overcomers. And we will have it up on Spotify in the next week or two as well. Because we're like crazy like that. We're everywhere.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Our pleasure.
Thanks, guys. Have a great night.